They've been laughed at, picked on, and even put down. But now it's time for the odd to get even. What kind of odd am I talking about? I'm talking about nerds. Get ready as I revisit the great 80s classic that is Revenge of the Nerds. This is Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews. This video is dedicated in memory of Robert Carradine, whom we sadly lost on February 23rd, 2006, at the age of 71. Rest in peace. So, greetings, my fellow YouTubers, and welcome again to Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews. I'm the Big D, and this time around, I bring to you a special revisited review of the 1984 comedy flick I would actually consider be a buddy comedy in ways. Revenge of the Nerds, released by Fox, directed by Jeff Canoe, written by Steve Zacharias and Jeff Buhai, starring Robert Carradine, whom as you saw just a while ago in the vid, I am respectfully and dedicating this video in memory of him since we lost him 2 months ago. Along with Anthony Edwards, Tay McGinley, or was it McGinley? I'm I'm just gonna say McGinley, and Bernie Casey. The film is set at the fictional Adams College and follows a group of socially awkward students who form their own fraternity to counter ongoing harassment from the dominant Alpha Beta fraternity and its sister sorority, Pi Delta Pi. Fox released the film on July 20th, 1984, and eventually became a big success for the studio, despite getting dissed by critics, because it had criticism directed at its sexual content and use of racial and gender stereotypes, though some reviewers praised its underdog premise and satirical elements. In the decades since, the film has been reassessed as a cult comedy and a notable entry in the slobs versus snobs subgenre of 1980s teen films. And its legacy has included 3 sequels and another television pilot, attempted remakes, reboots, and what have you, and the founding of a real life Lambda 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 fraternity inspired by the film. Well, let's get into the story. Nerdy freshmen Louis Skolnick and Gilbert Lowe enroll at Adams College to study computer science, meet women, and become adults. The jock Alpha Beta fraternity, led by star quarterback Stan Gable, accidentally burns down its house and, with Coach Harris's support, violently takes over the freshman dormitory as a replacement, forcing Louis, Gilbert, and the other new students to live in the gym. While many students are taken in by fraternity, Stan's girlfriend, Betty Childs, tricks Louis and Gilbert into pledging Alpha Beta, leading to their hazing and humiliation. Despite this, Louis becomes attracted to Betty, while Gilbert grows close to fellow nerd Judy. Out of options, Louis, Gilbert, and their fellow nerds, including the shy genius Arnold Poindexter, child prodigy Harold Wormser, lewd misfit Dudley Booger Dawson, flamboyant Lamar Latrell, and quiet outsider Toshiro Takashi, rent and renovate a dilapidated house near campus. They attempt to form their own fraternity, but are rejected by the college's Greek Council, presided over by Stan, because they lack backing from a national fraternity. After being turned down by numerous fraternities because of their nerd status, they are finally and reluctantly accepted on probationary status by the black fraternity Lambda Lambda Lambda, the Tri-Lambs, led by Ewan Jefferson. Learning that the nerds are planning a party to impress Jefferson, Stan has Betty and her Pi Delta Pi sorority sisters trick them into thinking they will attend, only to abandon them. Desperate, Judy invites her own Omega Mu sorority made up of nerdy women to attend instead. The party is initially dull, as most attendees are shy, until Booger supplies cannabis. No, wait, cannabis, excuse me, leading to dancing, fun, and hookups. The Alpha Betas and Pi Delta Pi then sabotage the party by releasing pigs into the house. Although disheartened, the nerds retaliate by installing surveillance cameras to spy on the Pi Delta Pi's in the buff and by pouring liquid heat into the jockstraps of the Alpha Betas. Impressed that the nerds have stood up for themselves, Jefferson grants them full membership. However, Alpha Beta's harassment continues, and Stan blocks any attempt by the Greek Council to sanction them. The nerds conclude that the only way to gain justice is to replace Stan as council president by winning the homecoming carnival. Partnering, partnering with the Omega Moos, they use ingenuity and technical skills to compensate for their lack of athletic ability in competitions against the Alpha Betas and Pi Delta Pi's. At the charity fundraiser, the nerds outsell the Alpha Betas by selling pies containing new photos of Bay and the other Pi Delta pies. Lewis, having fallen in love with Bay, steals Stan's masked costume and seduces her while she believes he's Stan. When the truth emerges, Bay, impressed by Lewis's physical attentiveness, has a change of heart and falls for him. The nerds then dominate the musical competition with a technology themed electronic performance, securing overall victory, after which Lewis nominates Gilbert as the new Greek council president. Now for the ending, you must stop this video at once, go to the description box below, and fast forward to the time below. As I count down now, if you've seen this movie already, please continue. Okay, you've been warned. Enraged at losing to the nerds, Coach Harris berates the Alpha Betas, and Stan leads them in vandalizing the Trilamp house. The nerds are left despondent until Gilbert interrupts the homecoming pep rally to protest their treatment. The Alpha Betas attempt to stop him, but Jefferson arrives with a large group of National Trilamp members, intimidating the Alpha Betas and allowing Gilbert to deliver a speech about embracing differences and standing up against prejudice. Lewis, the other Trilamp's alumni, Judy, and Bay join in supporting him, publicly shaming the Alpha Betas. And emboldened Dean Ulick then orders that the Tri-Lambs move into the Alpha Beta's house while the Alpha Betas must live in the gym until they repair the damage to the Tri-Lamb house in the end. End of story. So what did I think of Revenge of the Nerds? Well, I haven't seen this in a few years, but I've watched this several times. And I've got to say, it's one of the most outrageously fun-filled flicks ever of an A's flick. A's comedy flick, you know. But anyway, yeah, this comes up there with all sorts of other films that came out right about the time, well, before or even after. It's like what we got with National Lampoon's Animal House and Porky's, as well as some later films that came out. Well, other films that might have come before or after, like Hard Bodies or let's see, Spring Break and Mischief. Oh, and Up the Creek. Oh, the list goes on. I'm just gonna say it's absolutely very funny and absolutely crazy. Excuse me. Upon its release, the film went on to make 40 million at the box office in the U.S. and Canada on its $6 to $8 million budget. Well, its reported budget. Well, the film was heavily dissed and what have you. In some of these early reviews, Lawrence Van Geyer of the New York Times wrote, "It is the absence of genuine comedy that exposes glaringly the film's fundamental attitude and condescension and scorn toward blacks and women, and a tendency toward stereotyping that clashes violently with its superficial message of tolerance, compassion, and fair play." Well, that may be, but the Hollywood Reporter said the film is primarily the story of outcasts getting their just rewards, and that is always a satisfying movie ingredient. Nonetheless, this scattergun, often scatological film is filled with extensive racial stereotypes which may offend some moviegoers. Well, let me put it this way. This did not offend me and what have you. Anyway, yeah. Despite all this, the film still went on to become a cult classic, and I have to say it is really something. Now, however, in a decent review, Kevin Thomas of the LA Times thoroughly enjoyed the movie, calling it a delicious, gratifying underdog fantasy and a raunchy, uproarious satire set in the often cruel and inherently discriminating world of college fraternities and sororities. Definitely. Now, for what we got and what have you, Rotten Tomatoes has this as score of 71% and say that it's undeniably lowbrow but surprisingly sly. The film has enough big laughs to qualify, as a minor classic in the slobs versus snobs subgenre. Metacritic was mixed with 44 on the score, and uh, as part of Bravo's 100 Funniest Movies, they had this listed at number 91. Due to the influence of the film, a genuine Lambda 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 fraternity was founded in the University of Connecticut in 2006, and several chapters have launched. The Tri-Lambs, not an all-black fraternity as portrayed in the film, but open to all races and orientations, has 6 chapters in Connecticut, Maryland, New York, and Washington State. And that's pretty cool and what have you. Now, the film has been released on physical media numerous times, and it's on DVD and Blu-ray. Now, on DVD, it was the last time it was released. It was released as a special penny rated edition. I don't have that, but I've seen that around in stores before. Anyway, the film went on to have 3 less successful sequels that followed. The next one was Nerds in Paradise, which was released in 1987. And, well, unlike this film, the MPAA gave this a PG 13 rating, not an R rating like this one did. And it didn't do so hot. But, however, 5 years later, the Fox network premiered the first of 2 sequels to follow. The third film, The Next Generation, which mixed them some of the old characters with a few new ones, who would later rejoin them, plus some of the more old school nerds for the fourth film, Nerds in Love, in 1994. Now, there was to be a remake under the newly created Fox Atomic, slated for release in 2007, but unfortunately, it didn't quite make it. Seth MacFarlane had recently announced his intentions to reboot the series under his company, Fuzzy Door, with 20th Century Studios in December 2020. But we haven't really learned about that yet. Before the two direct to TV sequels were produced and aired, there was a pilot for a TV series directed by Peter Baldwin, was produced in 91, but was never aired and was not picked up as a series. However, that aborted TV pilot was later included as a bonus on the DVD and Blu-ray release of the film. Long after this, however, the late great Robert Carradine, along with Curtis Armstrong, who played Dudley Booger Dawson, would later reteam in the mid 2000s as well. They reteamed together to devise an idea for a reality series, which started in 2013 as TBS premiered King of the Nerds. Yes, and it was actually this show was based on nerds competing against each other in challenges and was inspired by this, but the idea was rejected at the time due to competing reality show Beauty and the Geek. But 6 years later, the two shopped the idea around and were able to get the show greenlit at TBS. Anyway, Armstrong and Carradine hosted the show, which unfortunately only ran for a mere 3 seasons, but I still really think it was pretty good, though. I will talk about that show later, well, sometime in the future, because I really thought this show was pretty darn awesome and what have you. Definitely. Anyway, the score for this film was done by Thomas Newman. Yes, who of course is cousin to Randy Newman. And this, of course, this was one of his first, well, early films to be doing stuff. Long before he composed music for even Disney Pixar films like Finding Nemo and Wall-E. Yeah, as well as Skyfall and Spectre, and films such as, let's see, American Beauty and The Green Mile, Meet Joe Black, The Shawshank Redemption, and even the 1994 take on Little Women. But it was really something. The well, the film would also put out get its own soundtrack to be released under the Sky Brothers label when it was under license at CBS, well, pre Sony. It had lots of numerous songs on here, and some of these were absolutely pretty darn good, especially the main theme of Revenge of the Nerds, performed by the Rubin News. I hope I pronounced that right. Yes. Anyway, there are three major songs that were featured in the film, but unfortunately they weren't on the soundtrack. Those include Talking Heads' Burning Down the House, Michael Jackson's Thriller, and Queen's We Are the Champions. But even so, I still think the soundtrack's pretty darn good. Anyway, this film had a pretty good cast and what have you. Now, of course, we have the late great Robert Carradine, may he rest in peace, as Louis Skolnick. And let me tell you, he's really something. He was really something because he's absolutely very darn funny. Pretty darn funny. Well, yeah, I'm getting the wrong words in here. My bad. But I thought he was pretty funny. Next, we have Anthony Edwards playing Gilbert Lowe. I'm gonna give him credit. Yeah, he's pretty good and what have you. Next, playing Arnold Poindexter is someone who's been having been in a lot of trouble lately, but I won't get on the subject. Then that's Timothy Busfield. I think you know what's more recently been going on with that guy, but I won't get on to the subject or anything. So this way, I don't cause controversy or anything like that with the actor. Okay, good. Now that's out of the way. Andrew Cas- Cassis Cassisi, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, played Harold Wormser, the youngest in the group. Curtis Armstrong played Dudley Booger Dawson. Let me tell you, he's pretty darn funny. Yeah, funny as hell. Larry B. Scott as Lamar Luttrell. I gotta say, he's pretty funny and what have you. Just so crazy. Brian Tochi, who of course actually years before this appeared on the Saturday morning show in the 70s Space Academy, and he would later go on to voice Leonardo in the original live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles films. He plays Toshiro, he's pretty funny. Julia Montgomery, whom that same year would actually appear in another 80s teen flick with a little raunchiness, and that's the underrated Up the Creek. She played Betty Child. She's good. Michelle Mayrink as Judy. Good. Ted McGinley or McGinley, either way, plays Stan Gable. Yeah, pretty good. Matt Salinger as Danny Burke. Yeah, another member of the Alpha Betas. Donald Gibb as Frederick Palawoski, alias Ogre. Oh man, that dude's pretty. Yeah, pretty crazy and what have you, but pretty brutal though. Okay, I just trying to see if you were paying attention though. James Cromwell plays Mr. Skolnick. Yeah, I was surprised he was in this. David Wool played Dean Oh, Ulick. He was good. Let's see, and John Goodman, one of his early films, he played Coach Harris. He was pretty good. And Bernie Casey as Ewan Jefferson. Yeah, he was pretty good. So I must admit, this film has a great cast and great characters and all that jazz. This is one film that's absolutely very funny, and I think you'll really like it if you give it a shot. So, would I recommend Revenge of the Nerds? I'd say, hell yeah, go for it. This film is so good, you won't be disappointed with it. I mean, if you liked films like Animal House, or if you like raunchy comedies like Porky's, or films that came before or after that, and what have you, or maybe American Pie or its spin-offs, and I think you'll feel right at home with Revenge of the Nerds. It's absolutely crazy. but it's a good comedy. Mhm. All right, so what did you think of Revenge of the Nerds? Tell me what you thought about in the comment section below. If you like this video, click the like button, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and be a part of the Big D Nation. Continue to help support my channel, and you know the rest. Join me next time when I bring to you the next Wide World of Game Shows episode, where I'll be talking about the short-lived game show from the late 80s, Wordplay. So if you like this, check out my reviews for these other crazy comedies that took places in college or high schools or what have you. In the upper left hand corner, check out my review of National Lampoon's Animal House in the upper left hand corner. Or go to the upper right hand corner and check out my review of the original Porky's, which came out a few years before that and was also released by Fox. Or if you like a later college flick, check out my review of National Lampoon's Van Wilder in the bottom left-hand corner. Now, rest assured, I will review its sequels. I failed to include that on my schedule, but I will review it sometime sooner. And the bottom right hand corner is the button you can click to subscribe. If you like rankings and reviews on movies, TV, music, video games, etc., then I'm your guy. And if this does as well as my original review, I saw my original review did pretty decent enough, so this is why I consider this to be a revisited review. And if this does well just like that, mind you, maybe I'll think of revisiting the sequels later on down the road. Alright, thank you for watching. Until next time, I'm the Big D saying, see ya.